Troy Landwehr here, and I'm with Thomas DeLauer. He's the keto guy, the intermittent fast. Go ahead. All right.
Dude. You're so right.
And I gotta tell you, if you guys don't know who this is, where have you been? Have you been living under a rock? Are you born on the moon? I mean, this guy is everywhere, and I just listen to you all day long. Troy Landwehr, and I'm here with Thomas DeLauer, and what a privilege it is to be in your studio. I really appreciate it. I mean, this guy is literally my favorite YouTuber with Joe Rogan in the world. I listen to you all the time, so I want to, you're just a generally great guy, and we had a chance to spend some time with you yesterday, and it's just, you're such a good person. And to have me here and to do this interview, I really appreciate it. And
Absolutely.
it's they know you as the apple cider vinegar guy. They know you as the green tea guy, the keto guy, and that's what we're here to talk about. And I know you as the keto guy, which is why I'm here. And I gotta tell you, if you guys don't know who this is, where have you been? Have you been living under a rock? Are you born on the moon? I mean, this guy is everywhere, and I just listen to you all day long. So let me ask you this. Tell me your story and your background.
Yeah, man. I mean, well, first of all, thank you for coming here. I mean, first of all, it's always great to just have interesting people and just as my guests here. So it's an honor to be on your channel and just be able to be, out there in front of a new audience potentially. So my story's pretty straightforward, and I'll abbreviate it so I spare everyone the gory details. But the reality is about 9-10 years ago, I was 280 pounds in the healthcare world, just overweight dude, kind of just struggling through, just focused on making money, focused on the usual stuff, and kind of let my own identity go, right? And the reality is I had a bunch of physicians in my back pocket. I worked in the healthcare industry, so these doctors were constantly flooding me with good information that I could use to get healthy, but I just didn't really want to apply it. And one day it kind of clicked, and I started applying these principles to modulate inflammation within my body, and the ketogenic diet was one of them. And that's how I started on that path. So flash forward about a year later, lost close to 100 pounds at that point. And then began my transition sort of into the fitness industry. And the fitness industry then built up a little bit of credibility, built up some mainstream media awareness, and my story just kind of took off. And from there, I realized that my gift was articulating more complex subject matter in a way that people understand, and combining that with my story made it relatable. So I was able to take complex things, put them in a box for people, but also explain it in a way where there was some emotion attached because I've been there before. So that's where we're at. Now I'm just the keto guy, the apple cider vinegar guy, the dog guy, the guy,
Well, you have more names than Baskin Robbins has flavors, but the whole thing is you're educating people, and that's why we love listening to you. So let's go right into keto. What is keto, and why do you like keto so much?
Yeah, so I mean, keto's simple, and I'm gonna explain it in a little bit of a wraparound way, because if I explain it in the traditional way, it turns people off, and I'll explain why. So keto is where you condition your cells to use fats as a fuel source. You are training your body to have a degree of metabolic flexibility to where you obtain all these different benefits. Like you start, your cells just function better. You can get more oxygen in. And it's all because of the presence of these things called ketones. And it's what your body converts fat into. Now, the caveat is you're depriving your body of carbohydrates. And when you deprive your body of carbohydrates is the only time in which your body can tap in and utilize these amazing ketones. Now, most people, when they first explain keto, that's the first thing they say. Well, you stop eating carbohydrates and you eat more fat. And that just turns people off, because it's just, we have a natural just inkling to just be like, oh, well, you're taking away my carbs, forget it. But I always like to position it with a positive, because keto is about the influx of ketones in your body. And these ketones, quite frankly, for lack of a better way of saying it, they're magical. They do crazy cool things to your cells, and they condition your cells. Now, that's not why I love keto. I mean, sure, that's great. Like, I perform better, I think better. I'm just all around, I think, a better person when I'm in keto, like, quite frankly. But I think the reason that I like it is it's truly sustainable. It's something that anybody can do and anybody can stick to for a long time, simply because now, like, you can still, even though you're depriving your body of carbs, you can still have bread because you make it with almond flour. You can still have muffins because you make it with almond flour. It's like you're not depriving yourself of anything, and you can stick with it. And now I get to eat the things that for decades I was taught were unhealthy for me. Eggs, bacon, cheeses, some cheeses, and all these things. It's pretty amazing. That's truly why I like it, because it's something I can stick to, but then in sort of a more removed way, I like seeing how happy people are when they utilize the ketogenic diet because they can stick with it. So it's changing how we look at food, and that to me is a really awesome thing.
So how do you get into ketosis?
Yeah, well, I mean, that's where the fun part starts, right? So first of all, I mean, the first thing you have to do, and it's an unfortunate thing to say, is yes, you do have to cut off the carbohydrates, which again, is not as hard as it sounds. But you do, you got to get rid of the carbs for a little bit. You just have to, you want to make an omelet, you got to break a few eggs. You got to do some things that are a little bit tough. So you remove the carbohydrates, but in order to do that, in order to make the ketogenic diet work, in order to remove those carbohydrates and still create energy, you get to increase those fats. And I say you get to increase those fats, not you have to increase those fats, because you now get to, you eat more avocado, you eat the bacon, you eat the higher fat foods because that is your new energy source. So you basically have just subbed out your carbohydrates for more fatty foods. And honestly, that's where the magic starts. After a couple of days, your body starts creating these ketones and you're in what's called the ketogenic state or ketosis. And that literally means your liver is taking fat, making ketones, and your cells now have a new fuel source, plain and simple.
What are the common myths or misconceptions about the keto diet that people confuse?
Yeah, I mean, there's a ton of them, to be honest, but it's more so it's just misinformation. It's just, people, they start researching stuff and there's so much stuff on the internet, they're not able to look at, real clinical studies and look at the peer-reviewed stuff that actually proves the ketogenic diet is an optimal way to live. But, I would say the first one is we need carbs to survive. And because the fact is we do need carbs to survive. So it's not even a myth, but the misconception portion of it is that when we're on a keto diet, we don't have carbs in our body. Well, our body always has carbs. Our blood glucose doesn't go to zero. Our blood glucose just, levels off, and our body manufactures carbs. And we have to remember all that carbohydrates are carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen, just a few molecules. It's pretty darn simple, and that makes a carbohydrate. So it's not exactly difficult for our body to create carbohydrates inside itself. I mean, our bodies can, well, not our bodies, but bodies can grow babies and do pretty amazing things, right? I mean, it's like Junior Arnold Schwarzenegger from the movie Junior, maybe it might be a different situation. But the reality is we create carbohydrates. So yes, we do need carbohydrates, but we don't need them from the diet. Our body will manufacture them how it needs to. I'd say another myth is you're going to lose a bunch of muscle. That's a common one, at least coming from me in the fitness world. I see a lot of people, well, I don't want to do keto because I'm going to end up super lanky and lose all my muscle. Right. I don't know where that came from. I think it came from a lot of the old school supplement industries trying to just, sell lots of protein powders and sell lots of, carb supplements to try to get people to, say they're not going to lose muscle. The reality is the ketones that we're talking about that the body produces are very muscle sparing. Okay, they prevent or slow down what's called leucine oxidation. That leucine oxidation is where we're breaking down the muscle tissue. So the ketones buffer that. So actually, just by the very nature of keto in general, it's actually very muscle sparing. So it's a great way. In fact, if you look at some of the top bodybuilders that are out there, they actually, when they go in their cutting phases, they may not realize it, but they go into keto. It's muscle sparing. They don't do it for that reason. They just do what they're told, right? But the fact is, it works, and that's why people do it. The third one is that you're going to go into ketoacidosis. And for those of you that don't know what ketoacidosis is, it's something that's related to type 1 diabetics. Now, type 1 diabetics don't make insulin. They have to, have to give themselves their own insulin. So a type 1 diabetic can go into ketoacidosis if they don't use their insulin. People think that because you go into ketosis, that if you go too far into ketosis, you're going to end up with diabetic ketoacidosis. Not the case. Nutritional ketosis, you're not going to get that far into ketosis. You still have insulin that's going to control that. Now, if you were a type 1 diabetic doing ketosis, sure, then it could be a concern, but it's a concern either way, whether you keto or not. So diabetic ketoacidosis, complete myth when it comes down to nutritional ketosis. It's not something you really need to be worrying about.
So people are watching this and they say, okay, I'm ready to go in, I'm sold on the keto diet. What tips can you give them to start the keto diet?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, first of all, just jump in with both feet. I mean, because the keto diet, I will tell you, one of those things is that if you try to kind of tiptoe around it and just dip your toe in, be like, okay, well, I'm going to just limit my carbs, I'm going to slightly increase my fats, you're not getting the effect. That's the good and the bad with keto. It's very black and white. Like, you're either in or you're out. If you just reduce your carbohydrates and slightly increase your fats, all you're doing is depriving yourself of part of an energy source, but you're not actually crossing the line to actually produce ketones. So just commit, and if you're not ready to commit, then wait until you're ready to commit, because otherwise you're gonna have a bad experience and you're not gonna get the effect. So dive in, go in with both feet, get rocking and rolling on it. The next tip is keep your salt very high. It's counterintuitive at first, it seems counterproductive, but you actually want to be increasing your salt intake simply because on the ketogenic diet, you expel a lot of water And it's a great thing because you lose the water weight, but you also lose the minerals that go along with it. So it seems crazy, but you actually want to salt your food. You want to add more salt, and I promise it's going to help how your brain feels. And it's going to help you. It's going to help you feel more alert. The other thing that I want you to do when you're starting out the ketogenic diet is start doing a little bit more in the way of like full body exercise. Like go into the gym and just do mild amounts of working out your full body. Simply because what it's going to do is it's going to get more glycogen mobilized. It's going to get your body a little bit more conditioned to using fats for fuel. But also, don't be afraid of the cardio. The cardio, as much as it kind of sucks, it is going to help you get into keto faster because cardio in and of itself is uses ketones and fatty acids much more than like high intensity interval training and stuff like that. So when you're first getting into keto, do the longer forms of cardio for a week, and it's going to help your body get a little bit more conditioned to using those ketones.
Well, this has been great, and I know that when you start a diet like this, you need a coach. I feel like you need a coach, you need to get good information, and that's why I encourage everybody to watch every video. He's got videos on ketosis, he's got it on intermittent fasting, which is unbelievable. I love your videos. Dog grooming, apple cider vinegar. We'll have it all. But you need a coach. Where can they find you? Because people really need to watch as many videos as you have to coach them along so they can get the information. Because you got things on what to eat, green tea, black tea, what breaks a fast, what keeps you in ketosis. Where can they find you? Yeah,
I mean, honestly, the unfortunate thing is where can't you find me? I'm kind of all over the internet, so I kind of haunt everybody. But if you don't know me or you haven't seen me around, I mean, simply just type in my name on Google or type in my name on YouTube. That's, I mean, you know, as much as I'd love to drive people to, you know, a lot of places where, you know, I'll make money and this and that. The reality is, like, if you want the good information, it's all on YouTube. So just type in my name on YouTube and you'll be covered up with videos that'll satisfy you for the rest of your life.
Well, we just appreciate you so much for coming on the show. And this is Thomas DeLauer. Make sure you plug into him. I mean, he's just a wealth of knowledge. He's got all kinds of new videos and content. And like I said, guys, besides maybe Joe Rogan, this is my favorite YouTuber. You're going to learn so much from him. And he's addictive. Like, you're addictive. Once you start watching a video, you're just going to watch more and more and more and more, because I think success leaves clues. And when you get around successful people, you become successful. You know, iron sharpens iron. And the more you watch a Thomas DeLauer, you're going to grow with him. And so I appreciate you so much.
Sure,
Thanks
man.
for having me on.
You,
I appreciate it, buddy.
Thanks, man. Thanks. Cool.